next let's look at the middle ear. So while the external ear was open to the outside, the middle ear is another air-filled cavity that also opens to the outside, but it opens to the outside through a tube that has a lot of different names. So you may have heard this referred to as the eustachian tube, and that's going to enter into the inferior portion of the nasal cavity. You may have heard of this referred to as the internal auditory tube, right? Or it's also called the pharyngotympanic tube because it enters into the inferior portion of the nasal cavity or the superior portion of the pharynx, and it goes all the way up and is found just below the tympanic membrane. So this is a tube that will allow airflow to go in between the respiratory system, right, and the ear, all right, so into this middle chamber of the ear. So this should be air-filled. If you begin to have a middle ear infection, you may begin to develop a little bit of fluid in this area. That's what makes middle ear infections very, very painful because they're going to then begin to push on that tympanic membrane. Or if you have an upper respiratory system infection, sometimes the lower portion of this auditory tube, pharyngotympanic tube, eustachian tube may become swelled shut, and then you're not going to get good airflow into and out. And so the air begins to be absorbed by the tissues around this middle ear, and you actually get a little bit of a vacuum inside, and that again sucks on the tympanic membrane, and as you move that it can become a little bit painful. But really I want to next draw your attention to our 3 auditory ossicles. So the auditory ossicles are the very small ear bones that are found in the middle ear, and first we begin with the malleus, that is literally attached to the tympanic membrane. So when the tympanic membrane or your eardrum begins to vibrate, you'll begin to move the malleus, and then the malleus is connected to the incus. All right, so here, back here, we see the incus, right? And it's connected to the incus by a synovial joint. Right, so it's freely movable. These are diarthritic joints. Oops, I think I actually just got it back into the correct position. All right, so these are diarthritic joints. And then we see that the incus is attached to the stapes, right? We see that the incus is attached to the stapes. And again, that attachment is going to be a synovial joint. So again, that's going to be diarthritic. So these 3 bones move fairly easily whenever you have movement of the tympanic membrane. Now, the stapes is going to attach to the, right up here, the stapes is going to attach into the inner ear. Right? The stapes actually inserts at this structure here, right there, inserts there. This is known as the oval window. So it's a membrane covered window that will allow the stapes to push in and out of that oval window, and that's going to begin to set fluid into motion within the inner ear. Right. Now, just below that, there's another opening from the middle ear. Here we go, you can see it. It's known as the round window. So the oval window is literally oval, and the round window is literally round. The oval window is where the stapes inserts, and the round window is also covered by a membrane, and that's going to allow the fluid waves set into motion by the stapes. It's going to allow those fluid waves to die down or to dissipate. Okay, So those are all the structures that we would think of as associated with the middle ear.